changing your catalytic converter on your 2005 Volvo V70 2.4 motor. This catalytic converter, we believe, was the reason we were getting such a heavy fuel smell when driving, probably due to this flex pipe, which had already seen 200,000 miles. So we replaced this unit with a brand new one. This is for a 2.4 motor, and we have a straight 4-bolt pipe inlet, the 2-bolt exit. We chose a Bosal 099 1989 converter, and we're going to use a new oxygen sensor also. For easy access to the converter, we'll have to remove this bracket with 4 bolts so that we can have better access to the 2-hole bracket on the back here. We'll also have to remove this bracket, which contains also 4 mounting bolts, so that we can have better access to the manifold bolts. There's 4 of them. Altogether, 6 rusted bolts. So all 4 bolts are now loose. Excuse me, nuts. All 4 nuts are loose. So the hardest part will be to remove the bracket side with that 1 bolt that's under the rack and pinion gear. And I've seen a couple videos on cutting the threads back so that the bolt is shorter and it comes out without removing the rack. But I'm going to try to loosen the rack up a little bit to get that bolt out. Let's see how it happens. So here I use a die grinder to cut through the bracket rather than take the bolts off. Well, we were able to remove the converter. We had to grind the bolts off the muffler end. Seemed like the best way since they're completely frozen. Still to work on getting them out of the muffler. We want to save the muffler, so we'll see how that goes. The next thing we're going to have to do is get the oxygen sensor. We're going to save, or we're going to reuse part of the end because we have a Bosch OE SmartLink connector oxygen sensor. It's a universal, and I know universals can be tricky, may not work, but we're going to give it a try because the price difference between that and a new one was double. I just do one at a time. So here we're cutting the oxygen sensor, the old one, off of the unit, so we can reattach the end piece. This is the Bosch Premium Oxygen Sensor OE SmartLink kit, which is a universal oxygen sensor to fit this Volvo. Hopefully this works. We've spliced, or I'm sorry, you don't want to splice the lines with the solder, it says. You have to use this SmartLink kit, which has connectors. What we have to do now is identify which wires, which color wires connect, match up by using the instructions. Here we're setting up the ends of the wires by putting the black cap on and then these little yellow seals. You want to look which direction you're putting them on. Now we'll do the other end the same way, using the box.
We do know.
So the key here is to strip the ends with 3/8 of an inch of wire showing. We decided to practice first a little bit so that in the end it looks like this, where the wire is showing through the coating. Putting on the Bosal terminals, and it says to take them apart, unscrew them, and then place them on the stripped down wires. The key next will be to matching it up. That's the centerpiece. It has a little metal connector inside that it'll tighten against. So now we're gonna it appears we have a type B sensor type, which helps us determine which colors match. So the first one we're going to do is our blue to the black, single black wire on the new sensor. In this case, the black goes to white, and we're bringing the wire right to the end of the cap. Bring the cap right to the end, and we're beginning to screw it in. Is it tight?
Mm-hmm.
Can you pull it apart?
No.
Looks tight. Okay, good. And then do the next one.
Gray goes to what?
Do the white to the black. Yeah, so push those connectors into the body of that. Do one at a time maybe. Yeah, pull it down. Slide the cap down. Insert the seals and the thing into the body, and then push the cap until it locks. Good. That was one. Did both sides click? Ah, perfect. Okay. That should be it. Here's our new oxygen sensor installed with the Bosch Smart Link connector. So the one problem we still have is that the studlets are stuck here in the end of the muffler. So we have to get those out. We're going to try to use heat and use a hammer or an impact. Okay, finally able to get the stublets out of the muffler, and it cleaned it up, so it's ready to go back together now. This is the stublet that was so hard to get out. Had to use heat and an impact hammer to get both sides out. So I had to heat it up pretty good before it would actually cut it off, and then I had to use the impact on it to push it out. So here we're ready to reinstall on the muffler side. I've purchased 2 sets of new stainless steel bolts in 5/16, and since this is the USA, metric bolts are hard to come by and can be expensive, so we're just using 5/16, which was available at Lowe's, and we have our gasket here that we're going to use between the muffler and the catalytic converter pipe. In this case, I'm using a lock washer, a mechanical lock washer, and I'm using 2 washers because the washers for 5/16 washers are not big enough to handle the oval holes that are on this catalytic converter. So it needed just a little bit bigger washer to go across. The next challenge we're going to face is getting this back in here with the bracketing installed. Because we cut the old one out, we're going to have to use some WD-40 on these bushings to get them to get this unit to squeeze back in here without dropping this bracket here. Remember, we didn't take this bracket off, even though I took the 2 nuts out here and here. There's one more on the top that we were going to try not to remove just because of the difficulty. So it looks like this bracket is going to go on here. Hold this here a second. Push this up here. It's not going up there. Okay, we'll get it. It's pretty close. Hold on. So we did get it connected onto the rubber grommets. We're just taking the oxygen sensor, getting that plugged back in. That's clicked in. We'll have to reattach that to using the clips that came with it. Now, we'll connect this back side. Alright, so we have the gasket ready. I'm going to put that up in here. So now we're just going to reinstall some of the bolts that we took out that we didn't really need to. Putting just a little bit of oil on them so they go back together a little easier than they came out. We're back to the manifold bolt nuts that we're reinstalling, and again we're using a half-inch socket because it fit better onto the 13mm nuts, probably because they were rusted and they had reduced in size. I'm not sure, but it seems to fit much better than the metric wrench. Sorry, since this is the USA, we had the half-inch socket available. We'll have to check the exact torque, but it's not very tight because they weren't really tight when I was taking them off. So we'll have to check the torque on this. So just tightening up the muffler converter bolts that we put together with our lock nut. I want to make sure it's snug because it has a gasket in there. And that should be it. Now all I have to do is put this one last bracket on. If you hand me that bracket. These are 12mm going back together. Okay, those are snug. The last thing we have to do is make sure that this oxygen sensor wire is routed correctly. I'm going to put some zip ties on that. We should be good. So apparently, no leaks. The smell is gone. It's pretty quiet. The new Bosal converter. We still have a check engine light, but hopefully that'll clear.